Ji, you have traveled all the way from Chennai and you're flying back. So we are grateful that you could give us time. And I agree with every word that Gri has just said on your journey. Uh, we are looking at women's era. And where do women like you find themselves in this era?
Hi, very good afternoon to one and everyone. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And Maria, thank you for inviting me here. Where do I find myself in today's times? I think this is the best time for women to be in India. We have been progressing. We have been looking at women who can break the glass ceiling, women who have been given wings to fly, who have been given the encouragement to dream big. And we have been focusing a lot on women education and telling them that this is your time, so move ahead. There's nothing about a man or a woman. We're talking about gender equality. And most of the people agree to that it's important for women in today's times to follow her.
That have to do with social media. Because do you think women are finding more voice because of multiple platforms that they can be on and perhaps be themselves?
Yes, social platform does give them the opportunity and the platform to speak their mind, but I think social media also has a section which does not allow women to speak. They try to women, actually troll them and put them and say that this is where you belong to. You're not supposed to speak your mind. So you have a section of that when we see
but you have put trollers in their place.
Yes, we do. I mean, there are times where there are some people who understand the language they speak, and you need to speak to them in that language because उनको दिखाना पड़ता है यार सिर्फ आप ही वो भाषा नहीं बोलते हम सब वो भाषा बोलते हैं, but we choose not to speak that language because there's something called grace and there's something called upbringing that we all have. So we don't speak that language.
Recently, you had spoken about being sexually abused by your father. Why did you choose to speak today? Of course, it's for any woman to decide when she wants to talk about these issues. What made Khushboo Sundar come up with that very, very personal story at this point?
It wasn't about a point. I think it's been there with me. Like I said, it stopped when I started revolting against my father, age of 15. And I think all these years, I'm 52 today. So all these years, it has been in me. And trust me, anybody who's been through kind of a sexual abuse, it remains very heavy in you. And I feel so light, I feel so comfortable that it's finally out. You don't feel that you're carrying a burden with you. And I think now is the time when we need to speak. अगर आज नहीं तो कब कब्र में लेके जाएंगे हर चीज़ अपने साथ. So I think you need to speak out. Women need to speak that what they have been through. I am late. Probably during my time, I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the support system. I didn't have the laws. I didn't have the POXO. I didn't have NCW. I didn't have any of the kind of social support in the society what you get today. And of course, there was a lot of responsibility on me, which probably did not allow me to speak. But this is something which was within me, and I thought if I can help a lot of women to speak what they have been through, because you spread a lot of awareness, you tell people that it's okay if we have been through this kind of an abuse, because you don't have to be ashamed. You know, the problem is most of the women, they don't speak about it, because the first thing they ask is, what did you do to go through this abuse? And I think that needs to stop, because women do nothing to go through the abuse. They're just abused. They think, there are a lot of men who think that it's their birthright to abuse women. They think that it's perfectly fine to abuse women. And they think it's my patriarchy mindset where I'm going to abuse women. You're a woman, so you have to be under me and I'm going to abuse you. And I think it's very important for women to stand up against the abuse they've been through and say, I'm not ashamed for what I went through. I want to shame the person who has done this to me. And that is what is important.
And how much of that are you implementing in your new role as National Commission for Women member?
See, I think NCW, when you look at the success rate of NCW, we have been doing great. And in fact, you know, what I go through when I go through the history of NCW, I've just assumed the office. But when you go through it, I think In 2021, we had the maximum number of cases in like almost 27,000 cases we had, and out of which 7,000 cases were about right to live with dignity. So I really like that. And of course, then you had the maximum number of, the second top rated cases were about domestic violence. But then when you talk about people who have been fighting for the right to live with dignity, it also means that they were fighting against, for a clause where it says that even if you are emotionally abused. So, I mean, you see the number of cases where women are coming forward and they're filing cases. So I think it's great. It's great to be part of NCW because it gives you a larger platform to understand the problem. And you think that my problem is the biggest problem? No, it's not. My problem is probably a dot when it comes to the huge line of problems women have been still facing globally. So I think it has to start. Kehte hain na ki to draw a line, you had to start with a dot. So let this be a dot and let us start drawing a line.
So शुरुआत हो गई है.
बिल्कुल, और शुरुआत बिल्कुल सही हो रही है.
और इस शुरुआत क्या जर्नी कैसा है? मेरा सवाल ये है कि women have to support women, and that's why we look at sisterhood. In women's era, how important is it that women who are in positions of authority, in positions of power, support other women to rise?
I think it's extremely important, but what I personally feel is, why are we always looking for a support? What is important is how courageous you are to make a mark for yourself, to make the difference, to bring in the difference in the society. I think the minute you start depending on others, the minute you look at expectation, it leads to disappointment. So I don't expect things, but yes, I definitely would want not a woman, but I think in today's time, it's very important that men need to come out and support women, because when you're talking about the hierarchy or the patriarchy mindset, that starts with men, where men say at home that मेरी बेटी और बेटा कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, लड़की हंसे तो बिल्कुल सही है, लड़का रोए तो भी बिल्कुल सही है. Gone are the days where you say that अरे तुम लड़की हो, इतनी जोर से तुम हंस नहीं सकते हो, और लड़की जब लड़के रोते हैं तो कहते हैं कि क्या लड़कियों की तरह रो रहे हो. I think we need to get away from that mindset.
But Khushboo, because you endured in silence till the age of 15, at that time, were you looking for some support from within the family?
No, because I didn't tell anyone about it. My family, my 3 brothers and my mom, they all were oblivious to what was happening to me, because I was literally petrified of speaking, because I had seen my dad physically abusing the domestic violence, what we talk about. I have seen my mom being through that domestic violence. My mom dignity being, really ripped apart, and I have seen that. So I was threatened that if I speak about this to anyone, then my mom and my brothers would bear the brunt. And I think that fear kept me, absolutely made me go silent about the abuse, what I went through. But then there comes a time where you say it needs to stop. You have to put a full stop, where you understand that what is happening is absolutely wrong, and especially from a person where every girl thinks that my father is my biggest hero. And when it comes from that person, that kind of an abuse, I think you start really, there was a time when I went through whether, did I go wrong somewhere? But then you come at the age of 15, you realize that it wasn't my fault. It's just that some men are built and made that way. And they're not the right people to live with. And I wanted my mom also to stand up and say that enough. I'm not going to tolerate this man with physical abuse and domestic violence, and where my dignity is actually broken every day. So that's when I spoke to my mom about it, and she stood by me.
And what about the rest of the family, your brothers?
2016, when I started revolting against my father, in 2015. 2016, my dad understood that he will not be able to get what he wanted, so he just left us and overnight, and he went back to Mumbai. We were just coming in, I was just starting out in Telugu films, which was based out of Chennai. So here I was, the youngest family member with 3 older brothers and my mother, and we were just left in lurch. We didn't know where's the next meal going to come from. And since I was a minor, whatever the bank balance I had, my dad took it with him. And he challenged me. He said, "Ekdam tum wapas aogi apne घुटने पे रेंगते हुए, you'll come back to me and beg me for forgiveness and say that मुझे वापस ले लो. And I said, the day I think if that kind of a situation arises, I will make sure that I poison my mom and my brothers and I'll jump in front of a train, but I'll never come back to you. But then I think I had this resilience, I had this courage, I had my self-confidence.
And you were a minor then?
I was a minor. And I started working and I just immersed myself completely in my work. I didn't have time to think about anything else. And from 2016, I have never seen my father. And I think I heard that we lost him last year. So I said, good. I mean, Dharti Mata se ek boj ut chuka hai.
Khushboo, you know, when you're telling me about this story, it's life. It's a life journey, life story. And it means a lot to talk about it. Do you often encourage your family members and other women that you meet? Because you have had a long and illustrious career as a politician, of course, as a producer, as an actor. Do you often encourage women to speak?
I always do that. I have two beautiful girls, very young girls. My older one is going to be 23 this September, and the younger one is 20 plus. And I think it's very important that you keep speaking to your child. And my daughters are like, they're enough. Matlab kehte na ki bahar you are a big deal, and you know people are worried and scared of you. But I become a meek cat in front of my children because my girls are so vocal. And I think one person is enough. I'm glad whenever I'm out, I'm glad that they are not around because they're enough to shred me into pieces. And they're, I mean, I speak to them. And anything right from their school days, I've been in a habit of the minute they come back home, you speak to them, what happened in school. And it's not about teaching the girl child or any child for that matter about a good touch or bad touch. I think what you need to understand is you need to strike a conversation with them, gain their confidence, and say that whatever happens, come and speak to me.
Yes.
And my daughters are very, very open about it, very vocal about it. There are times when we have political differences, but they are open about it. And we love the fact conversation within us.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Khushboo. And it's a pleasure that, and thank you for all the effort that you made to come and participate in Rising India. Please stay with us.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your honest thoughts. And Maria, I'd request you also to please stay on stage, as now time for felicitation of the real heroes in the field of gender equality. So ladies and gentlemen, presenting the winner in this category.
In the arid lands of Agrota village, Madhya Pradesh, water is precious and scarce.